News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. More than 6,600 students will earn degrees next week during the 136th commencement ceremony at Utah State University. The annual procession from the quad will begin at 8:20 in the morning, Thursday, May 4th, arriving in time for the commencement ceremony, which begins at 9 a.m. in the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum. Hooding ceremonies and college invocations will begin Thursday afternoon and run through Friday, May 5th. This year's commencement speaker, Paul Anthony Jones, is a USU alum and current president of Fort Valley State University in Georgia. Receiving honorary degrees in addition to Dr. Jones will be philanthropist and businessman Jonathan Bullen, former U.S. Representative Mia Love, and current member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Gary Stevenson. A broadcast of the ceremony will be available on AggieCast, and there is a complete schedule of events at the USU commencement website. Champ Drive will be closed because of construction underway near the quad, and that will not be accessible from U.S. Highway 89 or 400 North. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy skies is our forecast for this evening. Overnight low in the mid-30s. And then a sunny day tomorrow, around 70. And then it's going to be warming up even more after that. Now they're saying 80 degrees for Sunday and Monday. So we need to keep a close eye on the rivers and creeks in our area. It's been to 63 at 63 degrees right now at KBNU. We've had a late start this spring, but you can still have a beautiful green lawn this summer. Call the Lawn Doctor. They can help you win the weed battle in your yard. Call 753-LAWN. That's 753-LAWN.
Napa Auto Parts just took in 2 truckloads of oil. These are Napa's 2 best-selling diesel oils, and they're on sale for the lowest price of the year. Chevron Delo 15W40, $15.99 a gallon. Napa Premium 15W40, $12.99 a gallon. You won't beat these prices anywhere. I mean it, anywhere. There's no limit to how much you can buy, but the sell's over when the oil's gone. Cash or credit card only. No delivery must be purchased and paid for in store. Price is good at any of the 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. A 70-year-old man was injured after being attacked by a cougar up Spanish Fork Canyon. Sergeant Spencer Cannon with the Utah County Sheriff's Office said the attack occurred on Diamond Fork around 1 p.m. Thursday. The man suffered lacerations on his arms and head, but managed to escape the cat. Cannon said the man was taken to a nearby hospital where he was reported to be in fair condition. The Utah Division of Wildlife Resources has announced they will be searching for the cougar in the area today. Meanwhile, authorities have warned people to avoid the Diamond Fork area and be cautious while venturing outdoors. And in the wake of the tragic shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 students lost their lives, Utah lawmakers have taken significant steps to ensure that such an event does not happen in this state. A legislative report on the Uvalde shooting revealed that the scene was chaotic, uncoordinated, and lacked centralized leadership and communication, allowing the shooter to run free for more than an hour after the first shot was fired. PTA President Amy Warren stated that a new law, which the PTA collaborated on, could ensure that Utah does not suffer a similar tragedy. The new law is sweeping and includes the creation of a school safety task force, a new state school security chief, and a school safety person in every school. It will also create uniform language for every charter school, school district, and law enforcement agency to use, so that schools go into lockdown in the same way across the state. Currently, more than 100 different lockdown protocols are in place in Utah school districts and charter schools. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
News and current events. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Spring has sprung and so have the deals at Murdoch Volkswagen. Get ready for a season of adventure and hop behind the wheel of a brand new VW during our spring sales event. Right now, lease a new 2023 Tiguan S for only $299 per month and receive complimentary maintenance on all new Volkswagen models. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 5/1/23.
If your saving for retirement approach involves the phrase, "I'll get around to it someday," Edward Jones can help. When it comes to meeting your goals, time can be on your side. And there's no better time than now to get started toward your retirement goals. Edward Jones Financial Advisors can help. Stop by one of the 7 Edward Jones offices in Cache Valley. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
My husband had a gun. Him and his friends would go shooting. When he stored the gun, he didn't know. In a million years, we never thought that Emily could. There's a hole in our family that can never, ever be filled.
65 Americans a day die by gun suicide. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Heart valve disease is more common than you or your doctor may think, especially as you get older. It's serious but treatable with a proper diagnosis. If you or a loved one are experiencing shortness of breath, fatigue, chest tightness or pressure, dizziness or fainting, talk to your doctor and ask for an echocardiogram to get diagnosed early and enjoy your best quality of life. Learn more at askforecho.com. That's ask4echo.com.
What makes essential workers essential?
We build safe roads for you to drive on.
We harvest fresh produce for your families to eat.
We help you heal when you're sick.
We get you where you need to go.
We keep where you work and live clean and safe.
We make sure you get what you need to make your household work.
You're the essential workers who help our nation run. You're in every city, town, and corner of our country, and you come from all over the globe. And you have essential protections under the law. I'm Marty Walsh. The Wage and Hour Division at the Department of Labor helps ensure you receive the essential protections you deserve. If you have questions about your pay or about your job protection during an illness, visit our website or call 866-4US-WAGE. That's 866-487-9243. We can provide help in more than 200 languages.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Labor.
Work, school, grocery shopping, doctor's appointments, the gym, to the airport to pick up loved ones, to the kids' soccer games, piano lessons, out for movie night, to hear your favorite band in the city, over to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and on last year's amazing road trip. Your vehicle takes you so many places. Protect it. When you leave your vehicle, remember to always take your keys or key fob with you and lock the doors. If you suspect auto theft, contact the National Insurance Crime Bureau at 1-800-TEL-NICB. That's 1-800-TEL-NICB, or visit our website at www.nicb.org. A public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
Serving overseas was just the beginning. We might be home from war, but our mission continues in communities all across the country. It's why we're out there in times of peace and crisis, providing meals to the hungry and supplies to the sick. It's why we're giving strength to those who are too weak and bringing resources to those without them. Service doesn't stop when we're done serving. It's what makes us the VFW. Learn more at vfw.org.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
This message is for Shauna, my mom, who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anita Chandra with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Helmets are important for every bike ride, no matter how short. Did you know helmets are also important to wear when skateboarding, inline skating, or riding a scooter? A helmet can protect against a skull fracture or other facial injuries. Look for a helmet that fits correctly and that's certified for safety. Make sure you and your child wear a helmet every time. For more, visit healthychildren.org or talk with your pediatrician.
In the vast ocean, there was room for only one victor.
Pull her broadside, men! Brace yourself!
Many would never come back. But those who did would be legend. This epic battle for destiny will have to wait until after it rains.
But, Dad, we're winning.
I don't want to get wet.
Dad, we're at sea.
Well, maybe we can storm the kitchen.
Children who spend time with their parents are less likely to drop out of school, abuse drugs or alcohol, and are more likely to finish college. So imagine what a little time can do for your family.
To the deli!
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 a.m. and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Friday, April 28th. April almost done. How the time does fly when for at least the first 3 weeks of the month you're under snow. It is beautiful out there today, though. Very, very, very much spring this upcoming weekend as well. That does mean we've officially hit the spring snowmelt temperatures. So 80, I think, is what I saw for Salt Lake and parts of the Wasatch Front.
Here.
And here? Ooh.
Sunday and Monday.
Not bad. Can't complain. Time to get the shorts out. But, yeah, it does mean spring snowmelt is officially upon us. We've been lucky in that respect. There was a lot of concern with the amount of snow in the mountains that it was going to warm up sooner than it has, and it didn't. And we maintained those cooler temperatures, so that bought us some time. I talked with water managers, had kind of presented their reports to the state and the state's own, flood mitigation efforts. Coordinating all of this, put out a kind of a statewide press release style map. By the way, they have cameras attached to this if you'd like to see it. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but through the Department of Public Safety, you can they have live cams on the Weber River, Ogden River, a couple further down south, some in the Salt Lake Valley area, and one up here, which I forget which one it is now. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but what it's showing is that a lot of these rivers are basically at capacity right now, or close. running as high as they really can without it being designated an official flood. That means that as the snow melts, of course, the water is going to increase. So the short version is the state anticipates widespread flooding. How bad it remains to be seen, and exactly where is also a question. But it's going to happen. We're already there's so much water coming down already. And again, we've been lucky, so it bought us some time. But then we had moisture on top of that. I saw in the report over the last week, the mountains here in northern Utah. So this is a time of year when, okay, this requires some terminology definition. They refer to it as the water in the snow is what they're talking about. But it's the water the percentage feet of water, they call it. And so you could have 6 feet of snow, but depending on what type of snow, how compacted, all of that, there's a way they can calculate the amount of water that's actually in that 6 feet of snow. And I forget the exact feet. I know we broke records here in the state of Utah through the winter, but 901 inches at Snowbird. But it's the amount of water in that snow should be steadily decreasing and hopefully slowly for about 5 weeks now in an average time. What's been happening instead is it's increasing. And one report from this that was published by the Utah Department of Public Safety today, taking a statewide look, showed that in northern Utah, we actually increased by about 11 inches in feet of water over the last 7 days in the mountain snowpack. So we've actually added the amount of water that still needs to melt and come down. It's been an interesting winter, and so far a pretty calm but interesting spring. But with all this in mind, cities throughout the state have been updating their flood mitigation efforts, and Logan City included in that. Every city here in the valley actually is doing something of some kind, in the county as well. So just a reminder again that sandbags are available. Every city has a different way of doing this. Some have a pile of sand and they'll give you bags. Some have preloaded bags that you can pick up. There's usually a limit to how many you can take at a time, and you don't want to be taking more than that limit anyway, especially if you're doing it in a passenger vehicle or an SUV, not a large truck. They're very heavy. But if you, the same thing again, if you have experienced flooding in your area, expect it to be a little worse this year. So if it's been an issue before and you haven't taken any steps yet because we've gotten lucky, your window of time to do something preventative is quickly closing. So check with your city, see what they're doing, and also look for volunteer opportunities out there as well if you'd like to help in other neighborhoods and more. There are several volunteer opportunities. The best place to find those, by the way, and you don't have to be a Facebook user to get to these, all city pages are public, meaning you can just go to facebook.com and search for them and still see the content without even logging in. But find your city's Facebook page. That's where most of the updates I'm seeing from around the valley are coming from. So just a little friendly warning there that there's still time to do some preventative maintenance, if you will. If you've seen flooding in your area before, if you've had flooding in your yard before, expect that plus some as we hit these official snow melt temperatures this weekend. We'll be back right after this.
Slough in the Rough. This golf tournament is scheduled for May 12th at the Logan River Golf Course. Registration will begin at 8 with a 9 a.m. shotgun and then lunch, awards, and prizes immediately following play. Get your team signed up for a good time and a great cause. Slough in the Rough will benefit students and teachers with scholarships and grants within the Logan School District. Call 755-2300 to sign up. Cost for a foursome is $800. Call 755-2300 and tell them you want to play Friday, May 12th in Slough in the Rough.
Coming up on the Monday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, the latest on the Biden 2.0 campaign. What are they going to do given that he can't really do very much? We'll discuss how that's looking. Plus, Trump, DeSantis, and oh, by the way, the southern border. A lot of things coming your way on this Monday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
This is Police Chief Gary Jensen from Logan City Police Department. A number of scams are occurring throughout our city and county. These scams are highly emotional and demand immediacy that you pay, and you pay now. They will say they are from the IRS, the Sheriff's Office, the Police Department, utility companies, medical facilities, or even romance scams. The scammers do their homework. They can do a simple check on the internet of your name and find out where you live, where you used to live, even people that are associated with your name. They are always highly emotional phone calls that demand immediate payment or something bad will happen. Slow down and diffuse by asking questions. If they want you to pay with Bitcoin or gift cards, this is a scam. Be careful. Hang up the phone call is the best thing that you can do. Again, slow down and think. React by hanging up and don't become a victim.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. The For the People movie show coming up at 5 o'clock. Andy Morgan will be with us, maybe here a little bit early, in fact. So we'll have some extended time, which is good because there is a lot going on out there. And it's also a big weekend for both movie premieres, but also movie news and announcements, including one really cool one involving the sequel to the Spideyverse animated Spider-Man movie, which got an announcement today that the sequel, expected June 2nd, is, well, there was a trailer, and it looks really, really cool. So plenty to talk about in the world of movies, but we'll officially get the show underway here with our daily contribution to the news cycle while keeping the temperature down. It is your headlines and smooth jazz. On this day in history, mutiny on the HMS Bounty. This took place on this day in 1789. This is one of those, I chuckle at these sometimes, Bill, but there's moments in history that we all know. Everyone probably knows the phrase or has heard the phrase mutiny on the Bounty. But very few people know the
actual... it was a movie, too, yeah.
Yeah, and a good movie. But few people actually know the story behind this. And if you don't, I've put some links on our Facebook page because it's a really interesting and very political, really, story. This day in 1930, the first ever night game in organized baseball history took place. That seems like such a weird thing to memorialize now, but this just wasn't an option to play a night game, and there was a stadium that decided it could be done, and it was a feat of engineering at the time. But yeah, this day in 1930, the first ever official organized baseball history was made with the first ever night game. On this day in 1932, the yellow fever vaccine is announced for use on humans and proved to be a very effective vaccine. Also proved the science behind vaccination to be effective and safe. This day in 1990, after about 6,200 plus performances, the Broadway musical A Chorus Line closed for good. And this seems like a lot longer ago than this, but this day, considering what it changed, this day in 2003, Apple opened the first ever iTunes music store. Within the first week, about a million songs had been sold. I think it was like 99 cents a piece or something like that. This, of course, led to a huge debate where you had bands like Metallica even threatening lawsuits and more. And everyone in the record industry saying this is a fad. This will pass. No one's going to want to download or stream their music. People want physical media. And, well, they were really wrong. Although there is a bit of a resurgence in the record, vinyl versions of albums coming back. It turns out that in 2003, Apple was onto something, and people did want digital music. Famous birthdays today. Infamous, I guess, on this one, Saddam Hussein, former dictator of Iraq, executed after the U.S. invasion. He was born on this day in 1937. Actress Anne Margaret and talk show host Jay Leno also celebrating birthdays today, along with Penelope Cruz and Jessica Alba. Continued debate here in Utah over this story of two homes, literally, no exaggeration or hyperbole, sliding off into a canyon. And, of course, the legislature is now involved, or at least one legislator. The problem for Representative Jeff Stenquist is that he is literally in the middle of this. He has ties to both the city at the center of this, but also the developers, or at least some of the developers that were part of this. And he opened a can of worms today. I don't know why. I don't know what he was thinking. The debate so far has been, who's responsible for this? Did the city sign off on a development that was unsafe or was poorly engineered, or did the developers engineer a poor site and the city have little they could say or do about it? It turns out the latter is the case. The legislature, being dominated by real estate developers, has kind of rewritten the rules and let the developers drive the bus for the most part. So cities these days don't have a lot of tools at their disposal to stop a development. The way to think about this is the law here in Utah basically says if a city wants to stop a development, that is considered a taking of a right, because the state assumes people have a right to develop property they've purchased. So if the city wants to take that right away from a landowner, they have to either have a extremely good reason, like a person's building weapons or bombs or something like that, or they have to buy it from the developer. That's the way it works here in Utah. In this case, the city could do neither, and so they tried to just serve as checks. They worked with the engineers the developer had hired in the filling in of this canyon with sand and gravel. They literally filled in a former wash, meaning a place where water had run frequently. They filled it in and built about 8 homes on it, actually. The two in the center, you saw the video probably on your local news or us talking about it here on the radio. These 2 homes literally slid off into the canyon. The developer had fought the city's work to condemn these homes when they decided this was going to happen and wanted the families to evacuate. The developer has defended that, fighting the city on that, saying that they felt they could save it. They were wrong, of course, and now the developer is saying the city shouldn't have signed off on this. The city engineers said this was fine. And the city responding to that saying, look, we couldn't say it wasn't. The state legislature has defined things as such that we can't weigh in that way. All we can say is we worked with the engineers, and the engineers you hired as the developer assured us that all I's were dotted and T's were crossed. So the blame game on this one continues, but it is raising some larger questions about how we develop here in Utah and where we develop here in Utah, and whether or not all these homes getting higher and higher up on the foothills and further out into areas that get very wet and even underwater sometimes, whether we're doing this the smartest way we can, and whether the legislature maybe needs to rethink the power they've taken away from cities. Expect this story of the 2 homes sliding off into this canyon last week to come up in the upcoming legislative session. Former Vice President Mike Pence was in town today. He was part of an event honoring and hosted by former Governor Gary Herbert. And the topic of his presentation today was on civility. He said that he himself is on a mission for civility. Pence didn't talk about his upcoming subpoena to testify before the grand jury for the trial that continues of Donald Trump and the hush money paid to a former porn star. Those allegations continue to trickle through the court, and the Trump attorneys have tried to block Pence from having to testify, and he lost that battle in court. So Pence will be doing that soon. He didn't talk about that today. He was asked about it, and he said, we need to be more civil in general in this country. And kind of deflected a bit, but also responded a bit by saying, we all focus on these stories, these stories that make great headlines and get us all excited or even tittering with laughter because there's some ridiculousness to them. But he said the problem is that we've come to enjoy loathing each other. I kind of responded to that sentiment, though Pence is someone that I think himself has kind of a lot to answer for in what he excused for a long time. I appreciated the words he had to say today. And he described himself, I thought this was hilarious. Pence described himself as Rush Limbaugh on decaf. I thought that was very, very clever. He talked a lot about his religious upbringing and what made him interested in politics in the first place. And then he talked about Governor Gary Herbert, and he talked about Herbert as one of the kindest people he'd ever met, which honestly was my experience with Herbert as well. Talked about time that he got to know and worked with Senator Orrin Hatch. And in the end, he said, Utah, in the presidential campaigns, you might feel like you don't matter because the outcome is so predictable here in Utah, but believe me, you do matter. And Pence said, is there to make sure that states like Utah still have a voice within the Republican Party, despite them not being a deciding factor in the presidential nomination or general election races. You can see the full speech and interaction between Pence and others, including Governor Gary Herbert here in Salt Lake today. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. And those are your headlines and smooth jazz. We'll be back with more after the local headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:37, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. A dispute in Weber County turned deadly, resulting in the deaths of 2 individuals and the injury of another. The incident began at about 6:30 p.m. when police received a call reporting shots fired near the area of 3200 North Mountain Road in North Ogden on Thursday. Officers responded to the scene and saw smoke coming from a home. As officers approached the house, a male suspect who did not live there came out of the front door with multiple guns and started firing at police. Officers returned fire, killing the suspect. Following the exchange of gunfire, police discovered that the house was on fire. Firefighters from the Northview Fire and other agencies rushed to the scene and began to extinguish the flames. A woman was also injured in the incident from an apparent gunshot wound and was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police did not disclose the identities of those involved, except to say that there was a husband, a wife, and a sibling involved in the incident. Due to the extensive damage caused by the fire, it may take some time for investigators to safely process all the evidence at the scene. A Utah judge said he would decide next week whether to delay implementing a state ban on abortion clinics that providers argue could end access to the procedure throughout the state. The Planned Parenthood Association of Utah said it would be forced to stop providing abortions when provisions of the law begin on May 3rd, while Utah attorneys argue the clinics could reapply to be licensed as hospitals. Planned Parenthood operates 3 of the 4 clinics in Utah that provide abortions. The clinic ban is lawmakers' latest effort to restrict abortions and comes less than a year after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. It's not unusual in Idaho to see a herd of sheep bleeding as ranchers move them to higher elevation. But 2,500 of the animals crossing a highway drew a crowd of about 300 people earlier this week. The spokesperson for the Idaho Rangeland Resources Commission says it's the largest crowd he's seen in 15 years. Stephen Stubner says it's typical in rural parts of Idaho, but is still a novelty to some people. KTVB television reports the sheep will continue the journey through the foothills for a few weeks and move into Boise National Forest, where they will spend the summer. KBNU News Time is 4:40.
The guys at UNI Furniture are grateful for all the snow we've been blessed with this winter, but they're ready for spring. Shop UNI's spring sale on mattresses. UNI Furniture's most talked about mattress is the copper-infused memory foam. It's by far the coolest and most responsive to touch mattress they've ever seen, and it's great for side sleepers and people with back issues. Come in for a demo. Whether it's a mattress, a full bedroom set, a comfy sectional, or just a chair, you'll always find a better buy at UNI Furniture. UNI Furniture, downtown Logan.
KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the mid-30s, sunny around 70 on Saturday, and then sunny, warmer around 80 both Sunday and Monday. Want to keep an eye on the rivers and streams, especially later in the weekend. We've stayed in the 60s today at 63 currently at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Napa just took in truckloads of oil. Napa's best-selling diesel oil at the lowest price of the year. Chevron Dello 15-weight 40 oil, $15.99 a gallon. Or Napa Premium 15-weight 40, $12.99 a gallon. Price is good at all 5 locations of Napa Auto Parts from Preston to Providence. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's get numbers on Wall Street brought to you by Edward Jones.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks reversed earlier losses to end the day, the week, and the month with some gains. The Dow closed up 272 points, the Nasdaq added 84, and the S&P rising 34. Stocks rose on some better-than-expected earnings reports from ExxonMobil, Intel, and other companies. As far as the Federal Reserve is concerned, there's no crisis in the banking industry, although there were plenty of problems with one of the 2 banks that failed last month. The Fed blames the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank on poor management and watered-down regulations. The central bank also says that it shares in the blame, with its banking supervisors far too slow to recognize the growing trouble at SVB. Now, you might be wondering at this point if your money is safe. The FDIC says there's nothing to worry about if your accounts are at banks that it insures, and this is important, if you have less than $250,000 in those accounts. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Mothers are simply the best, so treat her with nothing but the best this Mother's Day with a delicious brunch buffet at Elements Restaurant. Omelets to order, hot pancakes with maple syrup, slow-roasted prime rib, fresh salmon, deep-fried shrimp, and many more delicious options, including a full dessert bar. Because she's special, treat Mom to something extraordinary this Mother's Day. Elements Restaurant Mother's Day Brunch, Sunday, May 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Google Elements Restaurant to reserve online or call 750-5171.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006. Some companies will quote you a lower price just to get you to commit to having them perform a service for you, but not John Hanson, the Duck Hunter. When you see coupons or prices advertised for services, we highly recommend you call and ask a lot of questions. Find out what other costs might be added, what type of equipment and experience they have, and what you can expect from their finished result. This tip will get you better service and a good price. For a free consultation on air duct cleaning and dryer vent line cleaning, call the Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter.
Story out of Morgan County that I've been following, partly because I have family in Morgan County, but also because this, like the story during I almost flashed back like 10 years there and called it Drive Through the Headlines. During the Headlines and Smooth Jazz segment there was a story I read about the home sliding off into the canyon, and now this blame game that started between the city saying the developer, they didn't have any power over the developer because of how the state legislature has written the rules, and they've written those rules for and by developers. Literally, the developers wrote the bills and lawmakers sponsored them and passed them. And then the developer saying, well, but the city signed off on this, so, how did we know? We'll see where that all lands. I guarantee there's lawsuits and more around this after these two homes just kind of slid off into the canyon. If you haven't seen the video, it's on our Facebook page. So it's related to this because as we grow and as homes start to spread out, people are going to get more protective of land and property and their communities changing. And one way that's manifested already here in Cache Valley, for example, is you've seen a rise a little bit in NIMBYism. That's the kind of hypocritical approach where a person will say, no, I don't want us all have to kick our kids out when they turn 18. So we definitely need to build more houses, but not by me. That's NIMBYism, not in my backyard. But and opposition to high density, with this idea that if it's apartments as opposed to single family homes, it'll bring crime in and things like that. These are excuses to oppose change, and we'll see more of that. Well, I shouldn't say always. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes there is a very good reason to say you shouldn't build that here, but most often it's an excuse just to oppose change. But on the flip side of that, we can change too fast without asking enough questions. I think the home sliding off into the canyon last week are a good example. That shouldn't happen. I think we have the tools and the smarts and the wherewithal to avoid things like that. So someone is definitely to blame in that scenario. And I personally would put it on the legislature for greasing too many wheels and taking a lot of the power away from cities to it was kind of ironic what the legislature has done with cities because they said, first, you have a mandate. You've got 5 years to come up with a housing master plan. Where are you going to build? How are you going to build? And what are you going to build? And you've got 5 years to do that. And then they turned around and took away all the city's power when it comes to, approving. And I mean cities through the state, not just one. They took away all the city's power to work with developers and say, well, no, you can't build that kind of thing here. So they took away a lot of that power from cities. And so they put cities in a really bad spot where they're kind of responsible for the whole thing but don't really have any tools, carrots or sticks that they can use to make that plan become a reality. So the legislature has put cities in a really bad spot, and it's foolish of the legislature to do so, and hopefully they undo it. I'm thinking that all the lawsuits that will follow these two homes sliding off into the canyon will finally get them to open their eyes a bit and think, okay, maybe we should have been asking more questions when the developers come to us with these bills ready-made. Maybe we should have looked into them a bit more before passing them. Yeah, guys, you probably should have. With that in mind, there's an example happening right now in Morgan County that's kind of a mix of all of this and at the same time completely unrelated. In fact, it's a story that's, if you've ever watched the Yellowstone show with Kevin Costner on Paramount, it's kind of right out of that. One of the themes of the Yellowstone show is that Montana has become this getaway destination for wealthy people, wealthy out-of-state people. It's become a tourist, well, it's always been, but it's even more so become a tourism magnet, which is great for the economy, but at the same time, tourists come and then leave. In Montana, what they're dealing with right now, both in the Yellowstone TV show and in reality, is, these wealthy people connecting up with wealthy developers, buying up land in Montana, and then basically taking away from the people who live there permanently, but also future visitors, what makes Montana cool. And it's ironic because they are doing it at such a clip that Montana in a lot of areas doesn't look like Montana anymore, which is why people wanted to build these big resorts for wealthy people in the first place. Wyoming and Jackson Hole have done a much better job of balancing this kind of thing, but they're geographically constrained. In Montana, they're not. They can build out and sprawl like crazy. And I've seen some photos of these scenic views that attracted resorts and hotels and tourism and wealthy people with their vacation homes. And ironically, they were so popular that now that same view is ruined because it's just all resorts and vacation homes over those hills now. The most ironic thing ever. Well, that's kind of happening in Utah already in places. But I did not expect it to be happening in Morgan County. Not to say Morgan County isn't a beautiful place. I actually thought one day that might be a place where money providing built and retired one day, because it's just this nice, sleepy town that's really only 10 minutes from one of Utah's largest cities. It's just a cool place. Very rural, but again, just through a not too bad canyon and a 10-minute drive from Ogden. It's attracted attention, like the stories from Yellowstone, the TV show, and Montana, the real state. It's Wasatch Peaks Ranch is what it's going to be called, maybe. It started about 3 years ago. Morgan County officials approved an 11.5 thousand foot acre resort, or 11,500 acre resort that is going to be called Wasatch Peaks Ranch. It'll be 750 residential units, a private ski area, not for the public, private. And it requires buy-ins. You have to actually, kind of like an HOA, you have to put a couple million up to be just a member of the group. And then you have to spend, I think there's a limit on how much you have to spend on what you build on the plot of land you get for that couple $1 million buy-in. You have to spend another $5 million at least building a nice, big, nice home. This is all private. This is no public access to this. The proposal also says there will be like a shopping area and a little strip mall in between the houses, all connected to this private ski resort on the hills there in Morgan. And of course, Morgan County signed off on this, and the litigation was almost immediate in response from the public. And now it's before a second district judge. Judge Noel Hyde in Utah's second district is being asked a pretty important question that doesn't just impact this specific incident, but the future of growth and planning and housing and everything in Utah. The question is, should Morgan's 14,000 residents have gotten, or should they in the future, before it moves ahead, get a chance to vote on this? It would basically be the judge overturning the 2019 ordinance that allowed the project to move forward. Hyde conducted a bench trial for a suit brought by 5 Morgan County residents trying to get a referendum on the ballot, saying they want to put this to voters. County officials have rejected that idea, and you don't have to be a political scientist to understand why. This is huge money for the county. The revenue from this would be a pretty big deal. The tax-paying base, but it comes back to another question. Well, there's a lot of questions. The effect this could have on watersheds that other counties have even said they don't feel Morgan County asks enough questions about. But also what it means for the general atmosphere, the beauty of Morgan County. This would take a good chunk of it away in a private resort-style project. And residents have been pointed out, and some attorneys as well, have pointed out that this is Morgan County actually ignoring their own general plan that they wrote and passed themselves a few years ago. They're ignoring it in order to approve this large private development and private ski resort. So Morgan residents have petitioned to get this before a judge, and they've been successful. And the question they're asking basically is, should this have gone to the ballot? Should this be a public referendum at this point, repealing what the county has approved and then putting it on the ballot saying, do you as residents want to approve this? And, man, I got to tell you, I am so torn. I really am. By the way, SLAP law is getting brought into this as well. Interestingly, the judge is also considering counterclaims brought under Utah's what we call anti-SLAP statutes here in Utah, and this is strategic lawsuits against public participation. They are claiming that the developers, with inside help from the county, tried to scare them from public participation for asking for this referendum to happen and for a judge to review it by threatening them with lawsuits. So there's a separate suit now where residents of Morgan County are saying the developers of this private ski resort and housing project, with the help of the county, is their claim, threatened us with lawsuits for speaking up as private citizens, which is our right to do. It raises some big questions. The biggest one being, do we want? My emotional reaction to this is I love the idea of Morgan County residents stopping this, especially for the fact that this seems to be Morgan County ignoring their own master plan because a bunch of wealthy people came to them with a project and the dollar signs are all in their eyes. So they're ignoring their own master plan to rush this through. So I'd love to see it go up in flames because of that alone. That accountability for the county, I think, is important. On the flip side, I absolutely hate the idea of land development and development planning being put on the ballot every time. We'll be back right after this.
We all need a reason to celebrate warm weather, so come celebrate Cinco de Mayo at the Cache County Fairgrounds, Friday, May 5th. Mariachi bands, Zumba, traditional Mexican folk dancers and singers will all have you dancing to their rhythm into the evening. And several food trucks are serving up authentic Mexican treats to satisfy your appetite. Bring the whole family. There's something for all ages. This year's celebration is presented by Presto Products in Lewiston. Apply today for a career that can improve your life at Presto Products. DD Auto and Salvage. They pay you the best price on junk vehicles and scrap metal. DD Auto and Salvage. Members First Credit Union. Large enough to provide the service you need, yet small enough to provide the service you deserve. Members First Credit Union invites you to join us at the Cache County Fairgrounds and experience the vibrant colors, sounds, and tastes of Mexico at this year's Cinco de Mayo celebration. Friday, May 5th at the Cache County Fairgrounds.
Some companies will quote you a lower price just to get you to commit to having them perform a service for you, but not John Hanson, the Duck Hunter. When you see coupons or prices advertised for services, we highly recommend you call and ask a lot of questions. Find out what other costs might be added, what type of equipment and experience they have, and what you can expect from their finished result. This tip will get you better service and a good price. For a free consultation on air duct cleaning and dryer vent line cleaning, call the Duck Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter.
My hearing started to go right around the same time my wife started naming off all the upgrades she wanted done on the house. I figured it was selective hearing. To be honest, I was actually pretty upset when it was suggested that I might need hearing aids, but ultimately I knew it was time for a change.
At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, we can help you regain the confidence that you're hearing life the way it was meant to be heard.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Visit cachehearing.com for details.
That's it for hour one of today's show. Mitch, if you're out there listening, sorry, we ran out of time. I just saw you calling, but we'll get back to this one on Monday. So if you've got something to say, hold on to it until Monday. I promise. This isn't the last time we've talked about this. Hour two of today's show coming up in just a few minutes with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com. A lot of movie announcements, news, and even premieres to cover, so we'll get right to it right after this here on KVNU Logan.
610 AM and 102 FM.
Best part of my day.
News Talk KVNU, Logan. Proud to be locally owned and operated by the Cache Valley Media